The arrangement. The morning sun barely reached through the grease-stained windows of Daisy's diner, casting dim shadows across the worn linoleum floor. Amelia Foster wiped down the counter for what felt like the 100th time that morning, her hands moving automatically while her mind drifted elsewhere. At 25, she had imagined her life would look different by now. She had pictured herself in a bright studio surrounded by canvases splashed with color, her paintings hanging in galleries where people would pause and feel something real. Instead, she wore a faded blue uniform and served coffee to customers who rarely looked up from their phones. Her cell phone buzzed in her apron pocket. She pulled it out, seeing her cousin Jessica's name flash across the screen. Before she could answer, her manager shot her a warning glance from across the room. Amelia tucked the phone away and returned to wiping tables, but worry gnawed at her stomach. Jessica never called during work hours unless something was wrong. The lunch rush finally ended around 2 in the afternoon. Amelia stepped into the back alley, pressing her phone to her ear with trembling fingers. Jessica answered on the first ring. "Amelia, thank goodness," she said, her voice tight with stress. "It's Grandma Evelyn. She collapsed this morning. They took her to Memorial Hospital." The world seemed to tilt sideways. Amelia gripped the brick wall beside her for support. "What happened? Is she okay? The doctors say she needs surgery." Her heart, but Amelia, the insurance won't cover most of it. "We're looking at nearly $250,000. $250,000. The number echoed in Amelia's mind like a bell tolling. She thought of her grandmother, the woman who had raised her after her parents died, who had encouraged her art even when it seemed impractical, who had sacrificed everything to give Amelia a chance at a better life. "I'll figure something out," Amelia heard herself say, though she had no idea how. "Tell Grandma I'm coming." She hung up and stood in the alley for a long moment, surrounded by dumpsters and the smell of old cooking oil. Tears burned behind her eyes, but she blinked them away. Crying wouldn't help. She needed a plan. By the time her shift ended at 6:30, Amelia had applied for 3 loans online, all rejected within minutes. Her credit was poor, her income barely enough to cover rent on her tiny studio apartment. She had $412 in her savings account and a stack of unpaid bills on her kitchen table. That evening, she sat at her easel trying to lose herself in painting. The canvas before her showed a woman standing at the edge of a cliff looking out at an endless ocean. Amelia had started it months ago during a rare moment of inspiration, but now she stared at it without seeing. Her hands felt heavy, useless. A knock at her door startled her. She wasn't expecting anyone. Through the peephole, she saw Jessica standing in the hallway, and beside her was a man Amelia didn't recognize. He was tall, probably in his early 30s, wearing a perfectly tailored navy suit that probably cost more than Amelia's entire wardrobe. His dark hair was styled with casual precision. His posture suggested someone accustomed to being in control. Amelia opened the door slowly. "Jessica, what's going on?" Jessica stepped inside, her expression apologetic but determined. "Amelia, this is William Montgomery. I work in the administrative department at his company. I mentioned your situation to him, and he wants to talk to you about something that might help." William extended his hand. His grip was firm, businesslike. "Miss Foster, I understand you're facing a difficult situation." Amelia glanced between them, confused. "I don't understand. Why would a stranger want to help me?" "May we sit?" William asked, his tone polite but efficient. They settled around Amelia's small kitchen table. The space suddenly felt cramped with William's presence. He carried himself with a kind of quiet authority that made even a modest apartment feel like a boardroom. "I'll be direct," William said, folding his hands on the table. "My board of directors has been pressuring me to settle down for the past 2 years. They believe marriage will make me more trustworthy in certain business circles. It's more relatable to investors who value family stability. I've avoided it because I don't believe in mixing personal emotions with practical decisions." Amelia frowned. "I still don't see what this has to do with me." William's steel blue eyes met hers, steady and unreadable. "I'm proposing a business arrangement, a marriage contract, 1 year. You would attend social functions with me, appear as my wife in public settings, and maintain the appearance of a conventional marriage. In exchange, I'll pay for your grandmother's surgery and medical expenses. Plus, provide you with a monthly stipend of $15,000. The words hung in the air like something fragile and dangerous. Amelia felt her heart hammering against her ribs. "You want me to marry you for money?" "For mutual benefit," William corrected. You need financial resources. I need to satisfy board expectations and secure a merger that requires a certain personal stability. It would be a clean transaction with clear terms. Amelia looked at Jessica, who gave her an encouraging nod. Amelia, I know it sounds crazy, but William is respected throughout the industry. This could save Grandma Evelyn. What about love? Amelia asked quietly, the question sounding naive even to her own ears. William's expression didn't change. Love is a luxury neither of us can afford right now. This is about practicality. You would have your own space, your own life. The only requirement is that you fulfill the public appearances and maintain discretion. No one outside a few trusted individuals needs to know the true nature of our arrangement. Amelia stood abruptly, walking to her window. Outside, the city stretched in all directions, thousands of lives intersecting and diverging every moment. Somewhere in one of those buildings, her grandmother lay in a hospital bed, her heart too weak to sustain her much longer without intervention. How long do I have to decide? Amelia asked without turning around. Your grandmother's surgery is scheduled for next week, William said. I'll need an answer by tomorrow evening. After they left, Amelia sat alone in the gathering darkness. She thought about her grandmother's hands, weathered and gentle, teaching her to mix colors when she was 7 years old. She thought about the dreams she had carried since childhood, dreams that felt further away with each passing year. She thought about William Montgomery's calm, detached proposal, as clinical as a business merger. That night, she visited her grandmother at the hospital. Evelyn looked small in the hospital bed, her silver hair spread across the pillow, her skin pale against the white sheets. When she saw Amelia, she smiled with the same warmth that had been a constant throughout Amelia's life. There's my girl, Evelyn said softly. Don't look so worried. I'm tougher than I look. Amelia took her grandmother's hand, noting how fragile it felt, how prominent the veins had become. The doctors say you need surgery. Evelyn nodded. Expensive surgery. Don't you worry about that part. Some things are just meant to be. Amelia felt tears threatening again. Her grandmother had always faced life's challenges with quiet dignity, never complaining, never asking for help. Even now, facing a surgery she couldn't afford, she was trying to protect Amelia from worry. What if I told you I found a way to pay for it? Amelia asked carefully. Evelyn's eyes narrowed slightly. What kind of way? Amelia hesitated, then decided on a partial truth. I met someone who's willing to help. A business arrangement. That sounds suspicious, dear. It's legal, just unconventional. Her grandmother studied her face for a long moment. Whatever you're thinking of doing, don't do it for me. Your life is your own to live. But as Amelia left the hospital that night, she knew her decision was already made. Her life had never truly felt like her own, always shaped by necessity, by responsibility, by the constant struggle to survive. What was one more compromise if it meant saving the only person who had always believed in her? The next evening, she sat across from William Montgomery in his sleek downtown office, 40 floors above the city, signing a contract that outlined every detail of their arrangement. The marriage would last precisely 1 year. She would live in his penthouse but maintain her own separate suite. She would attend all necessary social functions. She would sign a non-disclosure agreement. She would receive monthly payments plus coverage of her grandmother's medical expenses. William's attorney witnessed the signatures, then discreetly left them alone. The wedding will be small but publicized, William said, sliding the contract into a folder. My assistant will coordinate everything. Your only job is to show up and be convincing. Amelia looked at him, the stranger who was about to become her husband. And after the year is up, we'll divorce quietly. You'll receive a final settlement payment. We'll both move on with our lives. He spoke with such certainty, such detachment, as if their lives were simply chess pieces to be moved across a board. Amelia wondered what had happened to make him so cold, so calculated in his approach to something as intimate as marriage. Do we have an agreement, Miss Foster? Amelia took a deep breath and extended her hand. We have a deal, Mr. Montgomery. His handshake was firm and impersonal, sealing a contract that would change both their lives in ways neither of them could possibly anticipate. Two worlds collide. The wedding was a small but elegant affair, strategically photographed for the business press. Amelia wore a designer gown that cost more than her yearly salary at the diner, while William looked every inch the successful CEO in his tailored tuxedo. 3 days later, Amelia moved into William's penthouse, a sprawling, minimalist space of chrome, glass, and stark white furnishings. Everything was immaculate, impersonal, and cold. "Your suite is through here," William said, gesturing to a hallway. "My quarters are on the opposite end. We share the common areas. My housekeeper, Mrs. Chen, comes daily. My assistant, Thomas, will coordinate your schedule." Amelia's suite was larger than her entire apartment. "It's very white." "You may redecorate if you wish," William replied, checking his watch. "I have meetings. Thomas will brief you on tomorrow's charity gala." Left alone, Amelia wandered through the penthouse feeling like an intruder. She paused at a door to a room that seemed unused, perfect for a studio. When she asked William that evening, his answer was curt. "That's not in our arrangement." The charity gala was Amelia's first public appearance as Mrs. Montgomery. The room buzzed with subtle energy when they entered. "Smile," William murmured, his hand firm against her back. "These people determine our success." Throughout the evening, Amelia observed William's calculated interactions, perfect smiles that never reached his eyes, rehearsed anecdotes, strategic compliments. Everyone seemed equally artificial. When she genuinely complimented the chef's dessert, expressing curiosity about the unusual flavor combination, William looked almost alarmed at her unscripted interaction. Later that week, unable to resist, Amelia converted the empty room into a makeshift studio. William discovered her there, paint splattered and surrounded by canvases. "This is inappropriate," he stated coldly. "I need to paint," Amelia replied simply. "It's who I am." William moved to leave, then paused at a portrait she'd started, of an elderly woman with kind eyes. "Your grandmother?" "Yes." Something flickered across his face. "Keep the door closed when we have guests." It was the first crack in his perfect facade. The thaw begins. A month into their arrangement, William fell ill with a severe flu. Despite their agreement to maintain separate lives, Amelia couldn't ignore his obvious misery. She brought him soup, medicine, and insisted on staying nearby despite his protests that illness wasn't in the contract. Feverish and vulnerable, William began speaking of his childhood. Raised by distant parents who measured love in achievements, shuttled between boarding schools and summer programs designed to create the perfect heir. "No one ever just sat with me when I was sick," he admitted, half delirious. When he recovered, William seemed uncomfortable with his uncharacteristic openness, but something had shifted between them. The real breakthrough came when Amelia convinced William to visit her grandmother. He initially refused, stating it wasn't necessary for appearances, but eventually relented. At the hospital, William watched in quiet fascination as Evelyn fussed over Amelia, told embarrassing childhood stories, and treated him with genuine warmth rather than the calculated deference he typically received. "Your grandmother is remarkable," he said on the drive home. "She is," Amelia agreed. "She taught me that true wealth isn't what you have, but who you love." William didn't respond, but that night she found him standing in her studio, studying her paintings with newfound interest. "You have real talent," he said quietly. "Why were you working at a diner?" "Because talent doesn't pay bills," Amelia replied. "Not everyone has options." Something in her words seemed to reach him. The next day, an array of professional art supplies appeared in her studio with a simple note: "Options matter. Complications arise." 5 months into their marriage, the business merger was nearing completion. William had begun inviting Amelia to more intimate gatherings, genuinely seeking her perspective rather than just her presence. Their careful arrangement was evolving into something neither had anticipated: a partnership based on growing mutual respect and perhaps something deeper. Then Victoria Hawthorne arrived. Tall, sophisticated, and coldly beautiful, Victoria had been William's previous relationship, one engineered by both their families for business advantages. Now she wanted him back. "Your little charity case is charming," Victoria told William during a business dinner, loud enough for Amelia to overhear. "But we both know this isn't real. I have evidence of your arrangement." Meanwhile, Amelia's artwork had attracted attention. Gregory Winston, a renowned gallery owner, offered her an exhibition opportunity in Paris, a dream she'd never dared imagine. When she shared the news with William, his expression was unreadable. Paris for how long? 6 months at least. The timing would coincide with the end of their contract. Perfect, logically. Yet neither acknowledged the unexpected complication, genuine feelings. That evening, Amelia overheard William speaking with Victoria in his study. This marriage was necessary for business, he said, unaware Amelia was nearby. When the merger completes, things will change. Heartbreaking, Amelia retreated to her studio. William's words confirmed what she should have remembered all along. Their relationship was simply a transaction. Hearts renewed. 3 weeks before their contract ended, Amelia packed her studio. William had been distant since the conversation she'd overheard, throwing himself into finalizing the merger. Her grandmother, now recovered, helped her prepare for Paris. "Are you sure about this?" Evelyn asked gently. "I see how you look at him." "It was always temporary," Amelia replied, though the truth hurt more than she'd anticipated. The night before her departure, the Montgomery Industries annual gala became the stage for unexpected drama. Victoria, champagne glass in hand, approached Amelia. "He'll be mine again soon," she said smugly. "Our family's always intended it." William appeared beside them. "Actually, Victoria, that won't be happening." The room quieted as William took the microphone, his usual composure replaced by something raw and authentic. "I have an announcement. When Amelia and I married, it was an arrangement, a business contract." Gasps echoed through the crowd. "I needed a wife for appearances. She needed money for her grandmother's medical bills." Amelia froze, horrified at the public revelation, but something unexpected happened. William continued, his eyes finding hers. "I fell in love with my wife, not because it was convenient or strategic, but because she showed me what I'd been missing: authenticity, compassion, the courage to create rather than just acquire." He crossed to where she stood. "The merger is complete. Our contract ends next week. You're free to go to Paris with no obligations." "Why are you doing this?" Amelia whispered. "Because you deserve the truth. And because I'm asking for something not in our contract. A real marriage. Not for business, but for love." Victoria stormed out as whispers erupted around them. "What about Paris?" Amelia asked. "I would never ask you to give up your dream," William replied. "Go to Paris, create beautiful things, and if you decide I'm worth coming back to, I'll be waiting." 6 months later, William stood in a Parisian gallery surrounded by Amelia's artwork. The centerpiece was a portrait of a man with ice-blue eyes that had finally learned to warm. When Amelia appeared beside him, their hands found each other naturally. "Your exhibition is a success," he said. "You belong here," Amelia smiled. "I belong wherever I can create, and wherever you are." "Are you proposing a new arrangement, Mrs. Montgomery?" "Yes," she replied. "But this one's not about business. This one's for life." As they left the gallery hand in hand, both understood that the greatest masterpiece wasn't hanging on any wall. It was the transformation they had created together, turning a cold contract into the warmest of bonds.